Midoriya woke up with a heavy feeling weighing down his entire body. It felt like someone hit him over the head with a bat 20 times over. Great. Wonderful, he thought sarcastically. His body shuddered as he realized he was shirtless. He opened his eyes, only to be met with darkness and a splintering headache. Midoriya was suddenly hit with the overwhelming smell of blood. A wave of sickness washed over him, and it took everything in him not to puke. He wasn't in the dorms, that was for sure. He was strapped to a slab, and a heavy metal collar was wrapped around his neck. A court counselor. Midoriya struggled against his bonds, but to no avail. The thing around his neck must be working, but because no matter how hard he tried, One for All refused to work. How did he get here again? He had been walking back from the store. It was pretty late and he really wasn't supposed to be out, but he needed to buy a few things for the dorms. Before he knew it, a hand pulled him into a nearby alley and he was thrown onto the ground. Before he could get his bearings, a cloth was shoved onto his mouth and nose. He realizes now that the cloth must have been chloroform. Now here he was, strapped to a table in a dark room. Footsteps clicked in the distance. He heard the squeak of a door being opened, then closed. The person walked over to what he could only assume was the light switch. With the click, the room was filled with light. Midoriya's eyes had become accustomed to the dark, so that the sudden light of brightness hurt. He squeezed his eyes shut. After a minute, he was able to open his eyes properly. He quickly scanned the room. The floor was covered in blood. Small drawers stuck out of the wall. He knew exactly what they were. Freezers used to store bodies and organs. He nearly retched. A table was next to him. Scalpels, bone cutters, needles, and many more horrible things. A girl with ash blonde twin buns walked into his line of vision. She gave him a toothy smile. Himika Toga. "It's nice to finally see you awake, Izuku-kun," she cooed mockingly. Midoriya stared wide-eyed at her. This could not be happening. He began to squirm on the table. "Get away from me," he shouted. Tears welled up in the corners of his eyes. He had to get out of this, somehow. Toga frowned briefly, before smiling again. "We're going to have so much fun together," she cheerfully said. Hitting one of the buttons on the wall above him, the table slowly began to rise until it was vertical. "Don't tell me you already want to go back, do you?" She furrowed her brow in mock concern. Please just let me go," he whimpered. He lunged forward, trying to break free. Toga pouted and stomped her foot on the ground. "No! Izuku-kun is going to stay with me forever and ever," she whined. "You're going to be a villain, right? There's no reason left for you to be a hero anymore." Yes, there was, he thought. 2 reasons, in fact, and they were back at the dorms peacefully unaware as to what was happening. Midoriya tore violently at the straps holding him down. "No, I don't want to be a villain," he cried. "Well, you're going to be a villain, one way or the other." Toga happily skipped over to the table and grabbed a scalpel. "First things first," she said, walking over to stand directly in front of him. "You will always be a villain," she hissed. Midoriya let out a blood-curdling scream as she began to cut the letters into his chest. Villain. He passed out before the last letter was finished. Bakugo woke up sitting next to Todoroki. Todoroki was holding his head in his hands. "Sho, what the hell are you doing?" Bakugo asked groggily. "I have a bad feeling. It's Izuku," Todoroki whispered, still holding his hand. "He's not here. I don't think he ever came back last night. I know I shouldn't worry about him too much. He could handle himself, but I just can't help to think that something happened." Bakugo was awake now. Deku should have been home by now. He had left to get some food from the store around 10 p.m. last night. It was 9:30 the next morning, almost a full 12 hours later. You know how that nerd can get. He probably just went off to be a hero for some little old lady and got dragged to Recovery Girl by Izawa. Bakugo deadpanned, but even he sounded unsure. It wasn't like him not to at least send a text to let them know where he was. I know that, but what if he got hurt and couldn't get back? What if someone took him? I don't want him to get hurt. I need to know he's safe. Todoroki was overwhelmed with these dark thoughts. Bakugo wrapped his arms around him and pulled him into his lap. Red eyes met multicolored ones. Todoroki's eyes were red and puffy, and his cheeks were wet. He had been crying. Bakugo squeezed him. It's going to be okay. He's going to be okay, Bakugo said while rubbing circles into the multicolored hair's back. Todoroki fell asleep, back into a troubled dreams. 3 days. 3 days! And Midoriya had yet to turn up. It was terrifying. Now it was Bakugo's turn to panic. Todoroki and him were in his room. Bakugo was clinging desperately onto Todoroki's shirt, as if letting go would make him disappear as well. The silent sobs racked Juan's body. It's all my fault. If I had looked for him when he had first left, he would be safe. Now he's gone. He's gone, he sobbed. Todoroki grabbed his face so that they were looking into each other's eyes. Don't you dare blame yourself for what happened. Deku needs us to be strong for him, and when we find who has him, we will make them pay, Todoroki said fiercely. Bakugo laid his head against his chest, hugging him again. You're right. When I find who did this, I'm going to blast them into the void, he said in a hoarse voice. Todoroki chuckled. There's the Kacchan I know. He leaned in and kissed his hair.